Now when I was a young boy, about the age of 5, my teachers taught me I could be the greatest man alive. They told me I could change the world, be whatever I wanted to be. There was no one in the world like me. Every one of us was so unique. I'd not be an average man. No sir, I'd be no average man. So I had those big dreams.
Welcome back, everyone, to Eat the Rich. This is a show about our political economy, late-stage capitalism, and the millionaires, billionaires, and multinational corporations hell-bent on staving off its death rattle. As promised, this is part 2 of our episode on Disney with Chelsea Rebecca. Hey, didn't you know that the song "It's a Small World After All" was actually written as a reaction to the Cuban Missile Crisis? Oh, God, this is getting bleak. All right, well, buckle up for this one because, as advertised last week, this one gets a little dark. Enjoy.
Here's where we maybe come back to, as you mentioned, Carrie, way back when we were talking about the first little Mickey Mouse cartoons, his relationship with Charlie Chaplin.
Yeah, this is a good time for that before I get too drunk to remember the details of it. So I actually looked this up, and I want to talk to you about this, Chelsea, afterward, because Shane showed me Charlie Chaplin's movie, The Great Dictator, for the first time. Mm-hmm. And while I was watching it, and I couldn't put my finger on why, especially when they showed the office kind of spaces, I got such a vibe of Disney. And I was like, why do I feel like this? What's going on? So I Googled Charlie Chaplin Disney. And I found that Walt Disney had actually been a huge Charlie Chaplin fan. Throughout his childhood, he was he did competitions where people would impersonate Charlie Chaplin, and he had made himself he had made himself a little wig, and he would actually sneak out of his parents' house to do this. And he had another friend also named Walt who would do it with him, and they even had routines that they would do together and all this stuff. And he was just a huge fan of Charlie Chaplin. And there was in one of the things I was reading, it said even when he was older, he would purposely try to go places where Charlie Chaplin would be. And I think they didn't end up meeting in person until 1930, but they became really, really good friends. And the thing that I touched on earlier was that when other people were telling Walt that Snow White is not going to work, this is a terrible idea, whatever, Charlie was encouraging him. He was telling him, you can do this. This is really good. This is what you need to do. You need to stick with your vision and stuff. And on top of that, he was also giving him financial advice about the business. He had his bookkeepers look at Walt's financial stuff and give him advice. He's the one that told Walt, you have something really special here, and you need to make sure that you buy all your films. You need to own all of your films, just like I do. That's the most important thing, so that they can never undersell you and take what's yours away from you.
Wow.
So, that must have been, imagine that feeling of somebody who's your idol, to the point where you, in all your spare time, learn all of his routines, to be friends with him and have him be almost a mentor to you. That must have been an incredible feeling.
Right. To then take the time to be no, I'm going to make sure that you succeed in what you're doing because it's good. That would go to your head so fast.
Amazing.
How would it not?
Yeah. I just got goosebumps thinking about how fucking amazing that would feel. And additionally, as a side note, Charlie Chaplin was a huge inspiration for Mickey Mouse. The animators would study his routines and stuff when they were doing animations, and this was very purposeful on the part of Walt. Sometimes he would mimic the movements himself because he knew them so well, because he learned all his movements. And, to make sure that was instilled into that character. And even I was looking at the contemporaneous articles from back then, and a lot of people made that comparison, saying Charlie Chaplin and Mickey Mouse are the only 2 universal characters that everybody loves. They're amazing. And, even back then people made the connection. But the thing that was really interesting for me reading about this was that then, as we know, Charlie Chaplin eventually was because of his politics, because of his leftist politics, he was denied from like entering the United States and like was barred from coming back here. And
He's a socialist. We can
Yeah,
say
I
He's a
was going to
socialist,
bring that
yeah.
up. I knew that he was like super left and was wondering like, how does that,
right.
you know, affect that relationship?
So what would you think? You would think, you know, if somebody who like becomes your friend and they're like your mentor and you looked up to them your whole life, you would think he would like maybe try to like stand up for him, you know? But the quote in one of the articles that I read, you know, how we know that starting in 1952, Chaplin was hounded by a smear campaign about his politics and was denied reentry to the United States. So he settled in Switzerland for decades. So then in an interview, Walt said, this was before he got all mixed up, which was a very sad thing. I think that Charlie ended up that way because he's a very lonesome fellow. He just got himself in a trap, and I think he's just too stubborn to back down. I don't think he actually believes that stuff. I've been with him many times. He went for politics. I used to see him quite a bit at Rob Wagner's. He'd go on to these things. He'd start talking politics. He didn't think anything about it. I think that what happened to Charlie is that they got to him. To me, it's a very sad thing. So he's just like kind of like almost distancing himself from what was like a very close relationship and also saying like he's kind of like an idiot and doesn't know why he's doing this.
That is the most heartbreaking shit. I had no idea.
Isn't that horrific? Like to
Also,
He sold out his fucking idol.
yeah.
like
He's
what kind of
yeah.
person do you have to be to like
Yeah. Like
A Nazi.
you were a little like I'm trying to think like who I can't even fathom that.
Yeah, like I don't have anybody that I looked up to on that level where I like made a costume
Dressed
of them
up
and
as
like
them.
all the time and was like obsessed with them forever. And like, you know, so much of Charlie Chaplin's stuff is like an inspiration in Disney. And then like
Yeah.
as I thought about it, I realized like the reason that I got like that vibe of it is just because, you know, it's like when a writer is influenced by another writer, an artist is influenced by another artist, just like that type of like style and aesthetic is just part of Disney's style and aesthetic because that's what he took in and what he loved, and he just like threw him under the bus, no hesitation.
Even that last line, what did he say? It was the very last line of that quote sounded like it could have been like a weird little Trump.
To me,
like
it's a very sad thing.
Yeah, it just has the same flavor.
Yeah.
God damn, that's so fucking sad.
The irony, of course, too, with Chaplin, not to get too sidetracked with it, but like Chaplin, because of The Great Dictator, was lambasted in Nazi Germany as like a Jewish Hollywood. When
Right.
of course Chaplin himself was not
Right.
Jewish, but like they painted him in that light and to to make him be like, oh, he's a foreign agitator, whatever, and then to have that happen from again ostensibly his friend, the guy who his mentee, the person who looked up to him, under a sort of similar ideological circumstances, just like fucking it's heartbreaking.
Yeah. God, and even just kind of bringing up those like those Nazi ties and just even like the Leni Riefenstahl visit and shit like that. There's a lot of film theory, like if you get into like academia about Disney, about like Disney aesthetic and how it's super fascist and especially like the old like Fantasia is always kind of cited as like a super fascist movie, even though like I don't know if I would go like, yes, this entire film is fascist. Like I do. Fantasia is so fucking cool. The end of that is like the fucking devil like making demons dance around. It's cool as hell. But you can read into like it's the idea of it's a bunch of like inanimate objects and like similar looking things and humanoid creatures all like moving to classical music and it just I could see that.
That's I mean that when we were watching the film The Great Dictator and Carrie turned to me and said, oh, is Chaplin inspired by Disneyland? Like this stuff looks just like Disneyland. I was like, yeah, because it's Nazi. The entire construction of Disneyland is a giant Nazi vision of fantasy and utopia.
There's a lot of I was trying to Google the film and I can't find it and I don't know it offhand, but there's this so I minored in German studies in college, so I took a lot of like a Nazi cinema class.
I was wondering why you said Riefenstahl.
Oh my, I didn't even do it on purpose. There was a class I took where we watched like Nazi era cinema, which is extremely fucking really weird and surprisingly like there are films that they did during that era that are like basically like fairy tales. They're like Disney style fairy tales, and I forget the one I'm trying to find is like there's like a light that comes out of this mountain and it's like this kind of little German village. Fuck, I can't remember what it's called.
I give me a second.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes, yeah.
But just that aesthetic of like very folksy, beautiful, like countryside type traditional. Yeah,
Like, it's the romanticization of the rural, right? It's going back to Disney's own upbringing and his complicated relationship.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, oh, the simpler time. Back when things were, and again, it's a construction of the past. It's not actually a rendition of what the past looked like. It's nostalgic, which speaks to, at least with Disney and the Disney park stuff. Like you had said earlier, the phrase you used was like Main Street, right? Like at any American town,
right?
That kind of iconography was
If
his dad made him fucking do child labor at 4:30 in the morning, like,
the good old days.
hell yeah, it's a construction.
Oh, did we want to, since we're talking about friends of Walt, do we want to talk about best Disney adult ever, Sergei Eisenstein?
Yeah, briefly, we have to at least mention it.
We have to talk about it.
This is so cool. You gotta.
Oh, actually, really quick before I talk about Sergei, I did send you guys a clip just to kind of, I think this will be a neat bookend to talking about like the strike itself. So Dumbo, the film, is being made basically during the strike. There's a story I think about Ward Kimball, who's one of the big animators, one of the big 9, where he's like torn. He's like, I don't know if I should, like, he's kind of in the middle of it all. He basically like snaps at one point and is like, if I don't go in and animate this fucking elephant movie, this whole studio collapses. Like, there is no, so it's like that movie is like made during this time. And the scene I sent you is, if you don't remember, the circus that Dumbo is a part of, there is a group of clowns that are super drunk and they sing a little song about hitting up the big boss for a raise. And it is a
I saw that
caricature of Walt's striking animators. That is animated with so much spite. You can feel the you can feel that in there. When you know what you're looking at, like as an adult, that was such a fun thing to learn. So Sergei Eisenstein, I guess we can pick back up here. If you didn't go to film school, he was a Soviet filmmaker who, I don't know, like invented film theory, kind of. Like he's one of the fathers of film theory. He's like why montages are a thing. He pioneered montage, and he had a background before film and theater. Like he really cool guy. Like he did Battleship Potemkin, which if the name sounds unfamiliar, you've seen the imagery of it everywhere. Like
the Odessa step sequence.
Yes.
Is the most famous one. Yeah.
The baby carriage going down the steps, and the lady gets like hit, with the eye and the broken glasses, and the
October. Alexander Nevsky. Okay, I'll shut up. I'm like a Nevsky fanboy. I mean, I'm the Eisenstein fanboy, but please.
So, and he's a Soviet filmmaker with so obviously leftist beliefs, leftist politics. And would you believe that he was a capital D Disney adult? Like he loved Disney and loved Snow White. I quote from, let me see if I can find all right, this is a quote about Snow White by Sergei Eisenstein. The work of this master is the greatest contribution of the American people to art. Like he was like, his mind was blown by this movie. And like part of it is, it's the stuff we were talking about earlier, where it's the stuff with the multi-plane camera, and it's this like technology, and also it's the kind of thing that we talk about when we talk about like the concept of a Disney adult, or like Disney's kind of babyfication of culture, where it's all just like little kid shit. Like there's like no adult culture anymore. There's like no grown-up culture, Everything's just for babies. And it's the way he discusses Disney, it's like he couldn't have known that it would have ended up like this, because he discusses the childlike innocence of Disney with such reverence, because it was so exceptional then. Like now it's the norm, but back then he was writing a book about Disney that he was going to publish. He died before he could put it together, but his essays have been compiled as a book. I literally just ordered it so I can own a copy. But there's there's an essay in it where he talks about like he talks about the Hunchback of Notre Dame, just the story and the scene where it's Esmeralda giving Quasimodo the water. And there's like the crowd throwing stuff at Quasimodo while he's tied up. And he says, because Disney's works themselves strike me as the same kind of drop of comfort, an instant of relief, a fleeting touch of lips in the hell of social burdens, injustices, and torments in which the circle of his American viewers is forever trapped. So he's basically is like Walt Disney is Esmeralda and the American people are Quasimodo, and Esmeralda's giving him the water, and capitalism is the angry crowd. Like he so believed, like it's amazing. It's like he's like, it sucks to live in America so much, but man, you have this guy making these movies that are like you can sit in a theater and escape from hell for a little bit, and like that, I think that is why they're so popular. Yeah. And he goes on to say, and Disney, like all of them, through the magic of his works, and more intensely perhaps than anyone else, bestows precisely this upon his viewer, precisely obliviousness, an instant of complete and total release from everything connected with the suffering caused by the social conditions of the social order of the largest capitalist government.
God damn.
And it's like Sergey, like I love Sergey. You're talking about Disney, dude. It's like there's this really great video essay I watched last night by Kyle Colgreen on YouTube. Oh shit, I don't know if it's called Green or called Gren. I'm worried I spelled it wrong. He did a video essay about this exact friendship, and he's kind of like, it's a weird thing where Disney is also the crowd. Disney is the crowd throwing tomatoes and shit at you, and then also turns around and gives you the water to make you feel better. It's like this self-perpetuating machine. And also this, he included this, I think extremely bleak quote. Again, like I said, Eisenstein couldn't have known, or maybe he did, I don't know, but what Disney is today, keeping that in mind when he says, the triumphant proletariat of a future America will erect no monument to Disney as a fighter, either in their hearts or on street squares. Memory will not crown his brow with the glory of a fabulist or a lampoonist, but everyone will recall him with warm gratitude for those instants of respite amid the torrential, desperate struggle for life and existence which he gave to the viewer in the troubled years of the social paradise of democratic America. Like he thought we were gonna get better, and that we would look back and be like, man,
sweet.
That sucked, but at least we had Snow White, and we could watch that and take a break for 83 minutes.
I mean, I think the thing with that as well is like something that's missing from that is the fact that, you know, kind of like how Shane touched on, a lot of this stuff was just like other stories that they were kind of retelling. Like this isn't just like the water that he's giving to people to like give them a break, or it's like carefully constructed to be that, which is the same thing that you feel when you like go to the parks. It feels magical because it's carefully constructed to feel magical.
Yeah. And that's why it's so frustrating, because it's like Sergey Eisenstein, of all people, should know better than to not realize that it's like, I don't know, just the fact that he even is caught up in the trap of thinking like Walt is doing this because he's like magical somehow, and like it does it out of pure love and just wants to, you know, that there's no other benefit for him to be doing this stuff. It's literally just out of the pure goodness of like, I want to make something beautiful, and that's it.
It shows you how powerful it is. Like,
yes, like again, the fact that like if you're not familiar with Eisenstein, like he like legendary Soviet filmmaker, the fact that he is so entranced by the spell, it's like pretty incredible. There's also a very cute picture of them together at the studio. I can only send the picture.
I was just picking up my phone to look it up. Yeah.
I wonder if that was ever used against Walt to like call him a communist.
Right? I mean,
I have to think it was, right? Maybe that's why he did such like a hard right turn.
I have no idea.
Another very brief anecdote that I want to share in relation to this is just thinking about like a sort of weird Soviet fascination with Disneyland that'll also tie us into maybe then talking about the parks. Is Khrushchev's visit to the United States in 19...
Please regale us.
Yes.
Regale us.
God.
which was had originally planned a visit to Disneyland. And this is a well-documented event. I'm going to read from the History Channel website because it's the easiest one to find, and it's not the best source for this kind of thing. But just to give a character to this visit that happened. Khrushchev arrived in the United States on September 15th, 1959, for an extended visit and a summit meeting with President Dwight D. Eisenhower. The Soviet leader indicated a desire to see Hollywood, and a visit was arranged. On September 19th, Khrushchev and his wife arrived in Los Angeles. The day began pleasantly enough with a tour of the 20th Century Fox Studios in Hollywood. The Soviet premier was taken onto the soundstage for the movie Can-Can and was immediately surrounded by the cast of the film, including Shirley MacLaine and Juliet Prose. MacLaine greeted Khrushchev in broken Russian and then attempted to engage the premier in an impromptu dance. Khrushchev jovially begged off and then stood by while the cast members performed a number from the film. Frank Sinatra was brought in to serve as an unofficial master of ceremonies for the visit, and he later lunched with an obviously delighted Khrushchev. Then the visit turned sour when the president of 20th Century Fox, Spiros P. Skouras, sort of insults Khrushchev, and that's when the studios start saying, actually, no, you can't, come to, whatever, our sets anymore, because this was also after Khrushchev had made the famous, we will bury you line, and so everybody was like, oh, okay, we're not gonna let him on, and so it's going here. Khrushchev's anger increased when he learned that he would not be allowed to visit Disneyland. Government authorities feared that the crowds would pose a safety hazard for the premiere. Khrushchev, still fuming about the debate with Skouras, exploded. And I say, I would very much like to go and see Disneyland. But then, we cannot guarantee your security, they say. Then what must I do? Commit suicide? What is it? Is there an epidemic of cholera there or something? Or have gangsters taken hold of the place that could destroy me? Khrushchev left Los Angeles the next morning. Just that line of him saying, what should I do? Kill myself?
It's like me trying to convince my parents to take me to Disneyland. I was like,
I was gonna say, it's like having one of those annual passes and you show up on a blackout date and you can't get in. Oh, fuck. What am I gonna do? My favorite, I think we're looking at the same article, Shane, but my favorite little bit in this is Sinatra, who was seated next to Mrs. Khrushchev, leaned over to actor David Niven and said, tell the old broad you and I will take him down there this afternoon. Oh, God. Oh, Mrs. Khrushchev.
But yeah, it also speaks to the mythical quality of the park, that it has a hold on even ostensibly, the leader of the, the opposing superpower who is ostensibly against all iterations of capitalism and consumer culture. Still, nonetheless, he wants to go see Mickey Mouse.
Of course you do. It's fucking Disneyland. It's fucking fun as shit.
Khrushchev was an Disney adult.
He was a Disney adult.
Eisenstein.
Wants to ride the teacups, goddammit.
Hell yeah. God, the park in, what was it, 1959? Oh boy. Old Disneyland would have been so fucking weird. And do you guys know much about the park opening and what that was even like? Oh, God. You can, if you feel like it, and I've sat and watched this entire thing. I believe on YouTube, there is the entire ABC opening day special where it's just literally a live feed of Disneyland's opening day, unedited. And it's incredible. There's people trying to fuck up the shot that ABC is trying to set up. There's teenagers purposely making out in the background of a couple shots. It's just pure chaos. That whole day, there was a budget thing when I believe when they were trying to open where it was either one thing or we don't have running water for the bathrooms. And so it was just shit like that where they were clearly not open, but they just decided, or not ready to open, but they just decided to go anyway. The pavement wasn't done like setting, so
shit.
women in women's high heels were like sinking into the into the pavement. That's my favorite detail of opening day. It was such a shit show.
You
And
would think of all things they would have done that far enough ahead of time.
It's I don't quite remember why they were like, fuck it, we have to open it, but they did, and it was a disaster. People were like, that's it. It's fucked. Like it's not. But they obviously managed to recoup that PR disaster. Yeah, the complete ABC broadcast. It's like an hour and 13. But it's just this unedited, like live from Disneyland thing, and it's a shit show, and it's amazing.
That just reminded me of the thing you sent us the other day. That was like the cast of the Drew Carey show, like going through that superstar limo thing.
So glad you brought up Superstar Limo. There was like not going to be ever an organic way to bring up Superstar Limo on this episode, but I love. I don't know how much of Superstar Limo Carrie showed you, Shane.
Did you watch that video?
I resisted it with all of my heart.
The siren.
I have to
the
be honest.
siren call.
I mean, I think this is a
Superstar
good way
Limo.
to really highlight the absurdity of like some of the stuff at the parks and like how it gets made.
Yes, and just the fact that like fast forward to like, you know, this foundation of Disney being like this cultural behemoth that like fast forward to the year, I think it opened 2001. I think it also opened like right before 9/11. So there's that too.
Oh my gosh.
It's cool. Yeah, California Adventure is a fun park with a troubled history. California Adventure, if you're not familiar, there's like in California, there is Disneyland, and then right across like the parking lot is California Adventure, which was a park that was built in 2001 with the theme of California.
Oh, it's a separate park.
It's a separate park.
Oh,
Yeah,
I didn't know
you have
that.
to pay separate admission to go to California Adventure, which for honestly up till recently it was not worth the ticket price to go visit it because that park sucks. Like they're trying to do something with it, but they opened this park with just the theme of California, even though it's in California. Why would I go visit California and go visit a California themed park? But they basically like just made it like a weird Hollywood, like, I don't know. So there's this ride that they are working on in the 90s called Superstar Limo. Is it fine if we do a Superstar Limo tangent? I don't mean
Please.
to derail this entire fucking
By all
thing.
means.
No, I think it's good because again, it lets you get into the parks. Like
I do think you'll love it. It's my favorite thing. So this ride that they're working on in the 90s, and the premise is it's an indoor, like really zippy, fast, dark ride. And a dark ride is like, it's a ride that's like inside of a building where it's like, it is very dark and there's like lit sets and animatronics. And if you've been on like the Peter Pan ride, that's a dark ride. But this one was like a really like fast, like you were in a paparazzi chase is the theme. So it's Hollywood, you're a celebrity.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you see where it's going.
Yeah, okay.
So, yeah. Oh God, it's so good.
What year were they working on this?
Well,
The 90s.
Oh, I see.
They're-
Okay, all right.
You see the thing the
I
house
see
of
where it
cards
might be
that is
going,
being
yeah.
built.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's this paparazzi thing. You're being chased, and since it's a really fast ride, the sets that they're building in there are very simple because your brain, you don't have the time to register any like detailed anything. So it's just kind of like cardboard cutouts of LA and whatever. It sounds like it sucked. But then Princess Diana dies in
there we
a
go.
paparazzi crash, and
uh-oh.
dude, R.I.P.
Whoopsie!
So they canceled the ride. Of
R.I.P.
course.
Gaston! I
Yes.
crashed the limo.
Dude, R.I.P. Prince Philip. You would have loved Superstar Limo.
He was driving.
Dude, today I just thought of, I had the image of like that picture of him in the backseat of that car where he looks like a fucking corpse, just like in the Superstar Limo ride vehicle, like getting the picture taken, and it made me laugh very hard.
I'm sure he would have loved to be riding in the back of a different vehicle, perhaps waving to people standing in very straight lines.
Oh my god, Oh, this will be for later when we're just chit-chatting. I have a story about that particular royal relative that I think you'll find very interesting. Anyway, so they basically have this ride done. Like, they can't undo, like, they're about to open it and they're like, oh my God, we can't, because Princess, what the fuck do we do with this entire ass ride we've built? Everything is done. Okay, instead of it being fast, let's make it a slow ride. And what we're gonna do is, because you got to be able to look at stuff if you're going really slow. Okay, the premise is now you're in a limo going to a Hollywood premiere, and you're also going on a tour of Hollywood. So then, to make sure that there's something that you can look at, they put in animatronics of all of your favorite random late 90s celebrities, and they are the scariest looking things I've ever seen.
It's amazing.
This ride is this is a cult favorite if you're like a Disney theme park fan. I found out this week, like, because of the conversation I had with you, Carrie. I was tweeting about Superstar Limo, and a friend of mine is like, I own one of the marquee letters from that. It was like, shut the fuck up. She has a video. She's like a Disney adult friend, like Disney
Capital
adult.
D, capital A.
Oh yeah. But she has the letter E from Superstar
funny.
Limo, like, on a shelf in her apartment. Yeah, I don't know if you want me to send some pictures of these animatronics, but basically that ride turns into like this really weird, slow, like, tour through Hollywood where it's like, here's Regis Philbin, and this Regis Philbin animatronic pops out, and it's like. And the best part is, because it was originally a fast ride, there was a camera that took your picture, and they kept it. So there's there's pictures online of
just
people
looking bored.
Going like really slow.
They look so confused,
This is so weird, and I'm so upset that Donald Trump wasn't in.
I know.
I was gonna say, is there no Trump animatronic?
There's Drew
No.
Carey.
Who
else?
There should've-
Sad.
Well, you would be pleased to learn that there is currently a Trump animatronic
That's right.
if you go to the Disney parks in the Hall of Presidents.
That's right.
Which
There you
my
go. That's right.
here's
That's
my
right.
I know what you're Dwight, I
You're
know
right.
what you're thinking.
Yes.
It was originally
Yes.
a Hillary Clinton
Oh, it's
animatronic.
100%. 100%.
Yeah, of course.
Say happy birthday to this future
Yeah.
president.
Look at that animatronic and tell me that that's not a Hillary Clinton face mold with a wig on it. It's the funniest shit ever. I love it. I have not had the pleasure of seeing the Trump animatronic in person
I've
yet,
been to
but-
the Hall of I've been to the Hall of Presidents when I was a kid.
I don't
Yeah.
think we went when we had that brief Disney trip a few months after
No,
we met.
we went to
Let's
we went
go to Disney,
Epcot.
guys. Let's go to Disney.
We
Oh,
went to
boy.
Epcot, which again, in sort of talking about this episode, and I think
Yeah,
like
sorry to derail.
No,
this
it's good.
entire thing.
no, but I think
I'm taking this superstar limo.
in focusing it on like Walt as a figure, right? Like, as far as I know, the whole history and design. I mean, first of all, there's like the original Disney park, which is now Magic Kingdom, right? Like it was like the fantasy land, but the Epcot one is a really fucking weird.
Yes, it is.
Futurist, fascist, like trip around the world type place, and that's the one that Carrie took me to a couple years ago. And it has all the pavilions from like different countries, and the weirdest one is there's a pavilion for the fucking United States.
Yeah.
And you go and you're in America, and
Hell
you're
yeah,
going and
dude.
visiting that slice of America, and that gets back to what we were talking at the beginning, right? Like the idea, this pastoral, romanticized Main Street 1950s America, and we went to, it was called like the Great American
Yeah, the
Journey.
American
Adventure,
Adventure.
yeah.
That was
Oh,
it.
God,
And it was
Shane was literally
Animatronic
screaming,
show.
by the way.
I can't imagine.
We almost got
I
kicked
was
out
scared
of the
we were
fucking
gonna get kicked
place.
out.
but because it's like Mark Twain and Benjamin
I was
Franklin
gonna say Ben
as
Franklin
yeah.
and
as animatronics, like talking about like this great American journey, and then
Oh, yeah.
they descend, and then it's
I've
it's
been
all
there.
It's
of,
about like the Civil
It's all
War
of
and
the-
everything. Like
it's all of the hit points of like your classic middle school American history
right.
textbook. It's like
The great deeds of great men.
yeah, it was first the Pilgrims, Revolutionary War, Civil War, Manifest Destiny, and then like industry, baby. But when we went there, they added, I don't know, and originally when they built it, they very clearly added, there's like a section, so they'd have the Manifest Destiny part where it's like, you know, we're taming the great frontier, haha, and then they bring up like what I assume is supposed to be like, you know, like a Native American chieftain who then is like sitting there and lamenting that the white man have come and taken all of his land. Ooh. And then that scene ends, and then it goes back into the Roaring '20s, and they have a similar one of like
teaching the pilgrims how to plant corn, which also had you screaming.
Yeah.
There, I believe, I could be misremembering this. So if you're a Disney adult listening to this, don't yell at me. But I kind of remember there being a recent-ish like edition where they were like, we should probably talk about Chinese railroad workers, and there's like a one-line like dub that they kind of put in there, and like slaves. Just like we have to say something about it now because Disney's woke. So that's also a very sinister part of the corporate branding of Disney, I think, is like the idea of like using that as a way to make money.
They also like have 9/11 in there.
In the American Adventure?
Yeah. There's footage
Do
of
they
it.
really?
Oh god.
Are you
I think it was like the firefighters or something.
Oh
I'm
my
trying
god.
to remember.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
All
that
I
makes more
remember
sense.
is, I think, isn't like Ben Franklin in like a hot air balloon or something, and he's like
That
riding
sounds
around.
right.
Yeah, there's one point with him and
Yeah.
Mark Twain, yeah.
Yeah, they do 9/11 in the hot air balloon.
The weirdness of it, right, is again thinking about like, because in terms of what Walt Disney was creative in, right? Like, because that's again all the corporate propaganda, and that's a theme that we've talked about throughout the episode. Like, what did he actually come up with? And most of the things that were like the big hits were not his ideas, and it certainly wasn't his labor that went into it, right?
Mm-mm.
But when he had all the money in the world that he could fucking stuff in his mouth and use to cryogenically freeze himself or whatever, and he wanted to create his own little fantasy reality, what did he come up with? And it's this weird, like, slice of these different cultures, which obviously then gets into, there are clear stereotype things that happen there. And also a weird one, and we talked about this a bit, I don't know if we want to get into it, but like, when Carrie took me to Epcot, I was like, well, yeah, show me the Russia pavilion.
Yeah.
There ain't no fucking Soviet pavilion, is there?
Interesting.
There was
Very
going to
curious.
be.
I mean,
Yeah.
the idea for Epcot specifically like came from, I forget what it's called, but it was like a
it's
utopian
yeah.
city that Walt Disney
the
planned.
experimental, I believe the experimental prototype community
Yeah.
of Shamar. I think
Which
that's
like
Yeah.
that
yeah, it sounds like a fucking nightmare.
Yeah.
Like as a kid, I was like, "This sounds cool," and then as an adult, I'm like, "Oh my god, I'm so glad that didn't happen."
and part of the promise of Disney's original idea for Epcot, like when it was actually like a utopian community that he wanted to build before it was like became a theme park, was that he promised there will be no slum areas because we won't let them develop.
Oh, because we won't let them. Okay,
Yeah,
not like
so-
because.
Yeah,
I see.
so coming from a hard right wing ideology that he had, I wonder what that.
his
is.
idea was that everybody would
Right,
work
that's-
at Magic Kingdom. That's what the idea was.
Right,
So it
right.
was just like,
Yeah.
yeah, that's his vision for the future.
Yep.
Everybody works at Disney, lives in a company town.
God. I mean, that's essentially what they end up doing.
Yeah.
Like, you get as close to that as you can get with like their college program. I don't know if you're familiar with the Disney college program or not. You can spend a semester working at Disney and going to Disney University.
What is Disney University?
It's a Disney run like college that you can take. I mean, they offer like, I'm trying to think what they even, I feel like it's mostly business courses, honestly. I'm not really too familiar.
I think some of
with
it is like
those college
hospitality
itself.
oriented.
Yeah,
I had
it's
a friend who
hospitality
did it.
industry stuff.
Yeah.
I also had a friend who did it, and it's like basically a live-in internship quasi-slave program where you like live at the parks or in the weird little work labor area living barracks that they built.
It's like the gold base, Scientology gold base.
Yeah, exactly. And you go there, and it's similar from their experience. My friend relaying it to me, it's all about like how privileged you are to get to work at this wonderful magical place that you love so much, and it's very it's designed towards people who are fans of Disney.
Absolutely.
And it's marketed
It exploits that hard. Yeah.
Exactly. And one of the other things that they mentioned, my friend, was that like at most of the parks, and this was another weird Disney quirk, as opposed to other theme parks, the idea of Disneyland or Disney World was like it was supposed to be seamless.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why there's like a garbage can every X number of feet, right? Because the idea is that it should never be dirty. There should never be any trash on the ground. You should never see anything you don't want to see. And so because of that, and we've talked about this on the show before, but there's like a fucking underworld underneath
Disney
the parks.
World, not Disneyland.
Right, but Disney
that was
World.
part of why Walt. That's why Walt was like, "Shit, this would have been cool if I had like a way for." Because the story, I'm sure it's apocryphal, but it's like the story is like Walt in Disneyland is walking through Frontierland, and all of a sudden an astronaut walks by on their way to their job in Tomorrowland, and he's like. Yeah, let's fix this in the next park. And so Disney World has underground tunnels, and I am obsessed with the underground tunnels. I want to go there so bad.
It's like the fucking Morlocks and the Eloi from the time machine.
So when I was in high school, I was in my high school marching band, and we went to Disney.
I did
World.
that too.
My fiance did that.
Yeah. And I believe, I don't know if we were in one of the tunnels, but we definitely, we were in like the employee areas. Like we got to see some of the like, I guess, behind the scenes type stuff. But you guys did that as well. It seemed like a lot of they like hyped it up, like you know, like we were so good that we got to go.
We're
to
so
Disney World,
lucky.
and then we got down there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I felt lucky
was
when
like,
I was
this
like
is
15.
all-
I was like, this
This is all high school marching bands that are here. Yeah.
Yeah, my fiance did that too. I feel like everyone I know who did band in high school ended up doing the Disney trip thing. Yeah, it's a thing they do. Yeah, they do it every year. It's like a huge deal.
I had my first saxophone solo at Disney.
Wait, what? You play sax? So does James. What do you play?
I also
I
did.
play
Shut the
tenor.
fuck. I wish he.
I
so
played
sad.
sax as
Alto.
well.
How have we not gotten our
James
ska
plays.
band
You guys
going?
both-
Oh my
play
god,
alto?
James plays Barry.
We should start a ska band.
Yeah, I play alto, yeah.
Oh my god. Yeah, James plays Barry sax, so we've got like.
I
the full
love
range
Barry
here.
sax.
Mhm.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's so big. But yeah, talking about the parks now. This is when I get like the most pissed, I think, because I know so many people who've worked in the parks, and specifically, like I know people who've worked at Disney Animation, but as exploitive as animation can get, Disney is unionized. Although, fun fact, I learned yesterday, Pixar isn't. I don't know if they still aren't. But as of this article I was reading from 2018, Pixar is a non-union animation house. Yeah, so that's fucked up. But the parks, there is no protection at all for people who work there. Aside from like, I do believe there's some performance unions for like the people who do stuff on like stage at the parks. And I think, again, this is getting into like kind of the, like, I don't know too many specifics about the different types of unions there, but like if you're just like if you get hired to do, if you're like a cashier or you do sanitation, which even like sanitation at Disney, when you are someone who cleans the street there, so like they have people who like mop the street and keep it clean.
Right.
There's like, you're like, as being part of Disney, you are so expected to uphold this like magic. You're not even an employee, you're a cast member. You're not an employee.
That I was gonna say, there's a weird name for it.
Yeah,
That's
you're a cast member because it's supposed to be like a movie. That's the whole thing. Main Street, actually, if you look in the windows, there are names painted in all the windows, and they're all either people who worked on the parks or in animation. And it's the opening credits of the film is what it's supposed to be. But like, even people who clean the streets there, they all learn how to draw the Disney characters, and they while they're kind of mopping the street, they will paint the characters with water. Right. So you can stand around and watch them, and they'll paint like Mickey's face with water.
Jesus
or like Goofy.
Christ,
and it's
dude.
beautiful. They learn how to draw these characters for this art that is temporary and evaporates. And people say they're like a treasured like part of going to the parks. It's like it's such a cool thing. And those employees are the people who make those parks really fun. Like, they're why I love going there is the people who work there give it like 1,000%. obviously partially because they have to, but often it's because they want
Yeah.
to. Like there's a genuine love there and a want to provide an experience and really, quote unquote, make magic for people who visit. And the way that Disney treats them, even like, I have a friend who, I'm not going to give away their name or anything or specifically say what they do, but they were working up pretty high up at the parks. They weren't like custodial or anything. They were doing so they got laid off, and it was a whole thing where like my friend's boss was basically like, I'm not supposed to even tell you this, but I'm just letting you know, like, because of COVID, like you're probably gonna lose your job and you should start looking. Like I'm really not supposed to be saying,
Jesus Christ.
but as a person, I'm looking out for you. And my friend was able to, they were unable to find work, but nevertheless they just so appreciated that heads up because they were able to look and attempt to prepare themselves for what was about to happen. And I mean, they were furloughed for months, so that's just like you're employed but you're not paid, basically, with like the promise that you'll come back, and then they were laid off. Like it just amazing. Like just countless stories like that where friends of mine just got totally fucked. And these are friends who are they're Disney adults. They like genuine huge fans have given so much time and money to this company, and oh my god, they get the dream job of working on this thing. Like there's a fucking documentary series on Disney Plus about Imagineers and how they make the magic, and aren't Imagine, like it's the coolest job ever, and they just drop them.
And I mean, like you were saying, they really are the ones that make the magic. Like everything that people experience at Disney that draws them in is like created by those workers, and they do, I think, do it out of genuine love. Like I've known people who worked at Disney. I've known people who would give anything to work at Disney. Like they would just do anything just to have the chance to work there in any role. And once people get that role that they've been wanting since they were like a little kid, of course that they'll put up with like any level of abuse, like, and Disney knows that, and they exploit it, and it's disgusting.
Yeah. I think one of the bleakest parts of COVID, this whole thing, was right after the big layoffs at Disney. I'm watching, because I know so many people who work there. My entire timeline is people like, fuck, I just got laid off. It was miserable. And right after them, because when is Mickey's birthday? Because a bunch of people I knew who had gotten laid off and gotten fucked still like compulsively just were wishing Mickey a happy
you
birthday
mentioned this the other day, and that's like so sick.
Yeah, that was like one of the bleakest points mentally, I think. Like during this entire thing was just the level of like I can't fathom still caring, and having that devotion or positive. I don't know. It's just I don't even know how you go about changing that company culture. It's like,
I mean, it's like, you look at people like us, like, I went to Disney a lot when I lived in Florida. I grew up with it as an adult. I went regularly. Like people like you and me, we love Disney. Like we love the experience of going to the parks. We love like the movies and the music and whatever. And we also know that it's like incredibly evil. Like thinking about like the tangled relationship that like I have with it, and like the acknowledgement of like knowing all this like history and like the context around it and how bad it is. Like I still like enjoy it. Like I still love going to like Epcot and getting drunk or whatever. So it's like it's very easy to understand how like if you get to like be a part of that, and like if you're the type of person that wants to like bring that to kids, like imagine the person who like gets to be Cinderella, that dreamed about being Cinderella forever. Like of course they like want to keep doing that, and they don't care what happens.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I know it was a message, so it was not meant to be. The fact that there's a literal mouse in Dwight's apartment right now is the funniest shit of all time.
I don't know if you heard the screaming, because I was like,
sending,
is that what it is?
I thought I was, and I thought I was muting this every time. So for the past 3 hours, I thought I was muting this every time, but
we heard it all. We heard it all. Yeah.
Mickey's goons are coming to get you, dude.
That's Walt from Beyond the Grave.
I literally was sitting here. I was just like, man, it must be late. I don't.
It's so funny.
I'm seeing things. I saw this little flash, and yeah, this is
that's so perfect.
We got a situation.
That's so
Many
perfect.
apologies.
That's really perfect.
The little mouse has like a tiny little cease and desist with him. So cute.
I'm gonna find this little racist prick.
Oh man. Yeah, I guess that can, I mean, I hate to like end it on a fucking bummer, but I have like, do you want to hear some really depressing Disneyland stats that
Absolutely.
I compiled for this episode?
Yeah.
Let's
This was
go.
an article from 2018. There was a big protest outside of the annual kind of like board meeting with fucking Bob Iger and all of them dudes. Billy Taylor, 59, a 5-year employee who works full-time training food service workers for $11.50 an hour at Disneyland in Anaheim, said she's on food stamps to make ends meet. She's living temporarily with her brother and his wife after car repair payments and other bills left her unable to pay rent. We're creating the magic. We are creating the happiness for them, she said, motioning to children getting off school buses to attend the meeting. A coalition of 11 Disneyland unions. So again, there's unions at Disneyland, but it's like it's complicated. I don't fully understand the structure because I've never.
From what I read,
worked
it's
there.
like
I'm
not all employees are unionized, and there's like subsets that are
Basically,
unionized. As I was
yes.
reading about like the struggle with like COVID and like certain unions signing off on like the employees coming back and others not. Yeah.
Yeah. Their coalition of unions is calling on Disney to raise its base wage to $20 an hour after a survey of 5,000 workers found many were hard pressed to pay for food and medical expenses, and 11% said they experienced homelessness
Oh my
in the past
God.
2 years.
Wow.
11%
Wow.
of 5,000 Disneyland employees.
I'm not sure if it was from the same article, but I read an article from that same year that said that 3/4 of them were unable to meet basic needs on their salary.
Yeah.
Can you
I-
imagine like if 10% of your fucking workforce is homeless?
Yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah. And you can like still sleep at night.
They live there, right? I mean, don't they live in the don't they live there in the park?
No.
No, that's like, I mean, if you're doing the college program, yeah,
Yeah.
but that's in Florida. That's like a very no. This is like literally
It's
just
regular employees.
this is
Yeah.
it's a regular.
Okay,
yeah.
I thought some of the ones in Florida live there in the park.
No, that's like college program.
Oh,
type
I
A lot
see.
of them live like
Where it's
nearby.
like- it's almost-
like there's a lot of
Yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would think of that more as like their dorms, kind of, for if you're doing the college thing. Let's see. Let's keep getting sad. Of 17,000 workers represented by the 11 unions, 85% now earn, and these are people who are represented by these unions,
Right.
by the way. 85% now earn less than $15 an hour, with more than half earning less than 12, below the poverty line for a family of 4, according to a team of researchers at Occidental College. Disney disputed the survey, calling it inaccurate and unscientific.
Oh, okay. What is like unscientific about it?
Here's, if you don't mind, I tried editing this for brevity and I know we've been recording for so long, but man, this article, it's just a letter written by this woman's friend, and man, do you mind if I read it?
No,
Hit
please.
it.
I've been like waiting
Okay.
for you to get into this. Yeah.
Please, yeah.
Beautiful. Okay, let's go. This is from leftvoice.org. This is originally a woman posted this on Facebook, and it was republished by leftvoice.org with her permission. So she goes, once I transferred over to the third shift, graveyard, 11:30 p.m. to 8 a.m., my yearly income grew to about $12,000, never more than that.
Jesus.
Meanwhile, I watched the prices on tickets and food go up. I watched new areas open up, new entertainment come and go. I mean, like fucking Star Wars Land, right, is being built this entire time and opened around the same time.
Wait,
I watched
I'm sorry. So Star Wars Land implying that this is recent, meaning that $12,000, that's below poverty line, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Yeah, this was let me see. This was posted or reposted at least by this leftvoice.org on March 4th, 2018.
I'm sorry to interrupt. That's just
No, that's okay. That's
insane
okay.
to me.
Yeah, so it's recent. This is like now, basically. I grew close with a lot of people working for this company, and I can say that if it wasn't for them, I would have never stayed as long as I did working for Disney. Now let's go back to the woman you see in the picture. And the picture is of the woman named Whiny. I think it's Yoinished Mesfin, but her nickname was Whiny. I met Whiny in in October 2013, and Carsland was her home. So Carsland is in California Adventure. It's this Cars themed area. It's super cute. I was like the idea of a Carsland is so fucking stupid, but they made it work somehow. It's like Route 66 themed.
Okay.
And it's all neon. It lights up neon at night, and it's so cute. So that's where she was working. You could find her in that land working from 11:30 p.m. to 8 a.m. 6 days a week. She always smiled and greeted you with a hello, and restrooms were her major. I guess that's what she spent most of her time doing, was cleaning the bathrooms. So the first month working with her in restrooms was hard. She had her own way of doing things, and as soon as I got to know her, I knew what she liked and what she didn't like. She was good at her job, and never once did I hear her complain about her job or her pay. Throughout my years working for Disney, I would always hear people complain about the job and the pay. It never took too much of my time focusing on it, because a job is a job. To me, it was helping me put something on the table, even if it was a little. November 2016, Whiny goes missing right after Thanksgiving weekend. Working for almost 5 years for this company now, I was used to seeing people come and go. Some went and just never came back. Sometimes you saw it coming and sometimes you just didn't. I wasn't ready for her to go, and I never thought I'd see her go. It took about a month for us to find her. It took endless messages, Facebook shares, phone calls, and driving around. All it took was a message from her cousin that Wednesday morning in December. Quote, "We found her. She's passed. Thank you for all that you did." Unquote was what it read. My heart dropped and I wanted to just disappear. I felt like what I did wasn't enough. I felt like I was to blame. Soon enough, I found out more things about my friend Whiny. I found out she was found in her car in a gym parking lot after suffering a heart attack. She sat in her car for almost a whole month waiting for someone to find her. Why? Because she lived in her car and that gym parking lot was her home. She would use the gym to shower and use the restroom. She didn't have enough money to get her own place, and my heart broke because all she did was give and give. Never once did she complain. But behind that smile and "good morning, darling" lived a whole different person. A woman struggling and working 8-hour shifts for 6 days for a company that didn't even bother helping with flower arrangements. For a company that took from her and terminated her on the spot after her third no-call, no-show. A company that asked for her costumes back as soon as possible so they can give them to the next rehire. Someone out there on third shift at Disney now wears Whiny's beanie, her sweater, shirts, and pants. Oh man, I'm gonna start crying. It makes me so fucking
Yeah, that's
so
really
fucking bleak.
Yeah.
horrific.
That is so bleak.
I can't finish reading it. Like, I didn't think I would start crying, but it's like, man. Fuck, it's so sad.
And just knowing that this is not the only story like this, you know, like there's so many people,
Yeah.
like you said, 11% have experienced homelessness that were working in the park.
Jesus Christ.
And it's like, how do the people who like are responsible for payment, like, I don't know. Sorry, I didn't mean to fucking start crying on your.
No, it's, I
You're
mean,
just being confronted with the unblinking rictus of capital.
I think it's just like the fact that it's like they asked for her costume back, and this
Right.
woman's like, someone out there's wearing her
right.
Yeah.
her costume.
Totally expendable.
It's so interchangeable, right? It's just another lifeless puppet in the park or whatever that you can.
It's
swap
nothing to
out.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the end of this is she says, "So Bob Iger, if you happen to read my post, I just want to say, give the people what they want. Don't make it harder on them. Take a pay cut for a year or two if you're serious and want to help your employees. They're the ones missing dinners with family, holidays, birthdays, and special occasions. They deal with the good, the bad, and the ugly on a daily basis. These are people that know the park like the back of their hands. Listen to them. And to my Disney employees, keep fighting this fight. The time has come. It's time to rebel." I remember when this happened again, because I just know so many friends who work there, and as like a Disney fan, it's like I keep up with this stuff. And actually, I remember Bernie was very active with Disney employees and park employees, and he's done a lot to help in terms of, you know, bringing awareness to. I don't know. I don't even fucking know, man. I fucking hate Bob Iger. That's why I was like, I'm a little bit jealous of. I think I would maybe be too sad the entire time if I did the Bob Iger episode. He makes me so mad. Like, he should just get left in his car and explode like a fucking can of Pillsbury dough. Like, fucking like.
Jesus Christ.
You forget that my main job is horror movies until I remind you.
Top 10 Bob Iger deaths
Top,
can
yes,
come up with.
Bob Iger kill count.
Allegedly.
I mean, the
Welcome to the Magic Kingdom,
like the really sad thing about this is that gosh,
Thank you, Chris, for laughing at that. I appreciate that.
like the really sad.
I want to play a game.
The really sad thing is like this letter from this woman's friend is written as kind of like a call to action or whatever, and just like knowing that like nothing really has changed as a result of that, and like the way that the employees have been treated through COVID and the adversarial relationship of like Disney with the unions, and that this is just like the relationship that they're continuing to have while they're like worried about like falling revenues while they still make billions of dollars.
Yeah. Like the fact that you read about like people like Iger and shit getting all these bonuses. And I will say so I think the current president of resorts, Josh D'Amaro, I think he's currently president. Let me double check. It's like, I feel like it just changes all the time. So Josh D'Amaro, when there was that big Disney layoff of like basically a ton of fucking parks employees during COVID, and I will say, like, as much as I'm like, whatever, Josh D'Amaro, you're still president of parks, like, do something. He went to downtown Disney, which is this area of like Disneyland where you don't have to buy a park ticket or anything. It basically is just like there's restaurants there and stuff. But he went to downtown Disney and was like talking to people who'd been laid off, and I was like, I respect that. At least I feel like if you are in that position, you should have to look people in the face who you've just laid off and like see them,
right, at least try to confront what you're doing and the results of what you're doing while you're collecting your multi-million dollar salary.
It's such a bare minimum, and it honestly was like a meme all day on Disney Twitter, but like him just like in downtown Disney, like crying in front of like the tiki bar. But like I don't know, I feel like that's the bare minimum you can do if you're
at least like pretend to care.
Look people in the face. Yeah. Anyway, this episode got real sad.
I mean, you're in the right place for this stuff. It's I mean, you can't like turn a blind eye to this shit.
Yeah.
I was just kind of like reflecting on it, like, I wasn't going into this like with Disney, like I barely fucking consume like visual media or whatever, so like I didn't find myself I'm like particularly passionate about it. But like now, between our episode with Mr. Movies and our episode with you, Chelsea, like I'm just like this. It's like it's not even like a good example. It obviously is a good example, but it's like it's bigger than that because it's not just an example. Like it represents such an outsized, enormous portion of our economy, especially as like America is one of America's chief exports is like cultural shit like this, and like media ventures and stuff like that. And like this shit is consumed worldwide. Like it's so fucking insane that like you can't like a behemoth like this. And I just looked it up because I hate myself that Bob Iger's net worth is $690 million.
Yeah.
Oh boy, that's
I
roughly what 15 flints.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Back to that metric. Yeah, so 12 to 15, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
And my favorite is just like having gone to stuff like D23, and the worship that there is for the company higher ups is so fucking weird. Like Bob Iger is a celebrity. Like they become part of the product almost.
Oh yeah.
Like before the Lasseter fallout, I was at D23 and he walked by. I don't know what he was like on the way to a panel, and my friend I was with was like, "Holy fuck!" That's John Lasseter. Gets up and like bolts out, and I'm like, I don't get like it's. I don't know. It's just this like studio dude. I don't know. And of course, then obviously right after that, all this shit comes out that he's a fucking sex pest.
Oh right, that was that guy.
Yes. Oh okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh God, yeah. So, but there's like a weird, even people who aren't really part of the creative side of it, like an Iger, or even, oh no, everyone hates Bob Chapek. He's a bad example. Even Disney fans even hate Bob Chapek. No one fucking likes that guy. But
like that Bob Lasseter guy just got to like retire, right? Like in a normal way. He didn't even have any consequences. And then I remember I was reading when you guys were doing the Bob Iger episode, I helped a little bit with the research, and I was reading about like the sexual assault stuff, and like even after it came out, like the stuff that he had done, Bob Iger was still like singing his praises and being like, Bob has done so much for Disney, for the Disney family. And it's like,
and Lasseter was given I think he was brought on at was it Skydance? He's still working.
Sick.
Funny, I guess story to lift the mood a teeny bit. My friend who was working on she's an animator. She worked on like Rick and Morty and shit. Some of my best friends, like we've known each other since we were babies. So she was working on a Disney show. I forget what it was, but since she, obviously she's an illustrator, she got this idea one day. This is before the Lasseter thing happened. I don't know if you're familiar all with him as a person, but one of his trademarks is that he wears Hawaiian shirts like constantly. Like that's all he wears. Is this dude just wears like that's his thing. We should have known.
Big red flag.
Huge red flag.
We should have fucking known, dude.
Let's not pass judgment.
So my
Okay.
But so my friend mocks up a pad, it's like these like leaves with John Lasseter's face in them, and he's like basically making soy face. I can't think of another way to describe it. If I can find a picture of it, I'll send it to you. But she had this fabric printed on like spoon flour, and I cosplay, so I made the shirt so that we made this like John Lasseter shirt, and then it came out that he's a giant sex fest, and so we have this like forbidden shirt that we just I forget who even has it, but it's just like the most cursed thing we've ever made together that like we can't bring anywhere or put online, even though I worked very hard on it. I'll see if I can find it. It's like it's pretty cool. I did like a bowling shirt kind of. I used like a bowling shirt pattern, so it's very like I think it's very fashionable, except for the fact that it has like a giant sex creep on it.
It's crazy like how many chances these people get. Like I was just like looking it up because you said he like works at Skydance now, and I found this article.
I found
this article with like the CEO of Skydance saying, we're certain that John has learned valuable lessons and is ready to prove his capabilities as a leader and colleague. He has given his assurance that he will comport himself in a wholly professional manner. That is the expectation of every Skydance colleague.
Like what? They're gonna like just duct tape his hands behind his back. Like, what the fuck are you gonna do to keep him from like touching on people? It's so like I remember that where they were like, we've been assured that John will be on his best behavior. Like, what the fuck?
Like, just retire, dude. Like, you're already rich. Like,
no, oh my god, I'm sorry. This episode,
no,
is so
it's
long,
good.
But I've dragged you into like the Disney part of my brain where it's the simultaneous. Just like I love it, and it makes me cry with anger. Like it is a weird place to be. If you're listening and you still want to enjoy the Disney parks, I would because I've
get
gone.
drunk.
I still go there.
That's the.
Get really drunk when you go there.
That's the key.
Leave cast compliments. You can go to the like city hall and they you can be like, hey, so and so did a really good job. We try to do like at least one every time we're there. Be like, oh, so and so at this ride, like let us have a ride vehicle to ourselves, and that was really thoughtful. Like little things like that. It makes a huge difference in terms of their I think even work hours and stuff. Also, Disney, I don't know if this is still true. You can bring your own food in. You're allowed to.
Are you?
I'm shocked that they still let you.
I thought you had to hide
Put
it.
you in the stocks or something.
You don't go to Disney jail. No. Actually, one time. Oh, God.
No, you go ahead.
Well, I was on spring break in Disney World, and we, there was one night we all had spaghetti for dinner at like the timeshare we were staying. It was like my friend's uncle's timeshare, and we had a ton of spaghetti left over, and we're like just broke as fuck college kids. So we're like, let's just put the spaghetti in these giant Ziploc bags and bring them to Disney. And so we did. And we like had like individual Ziploc bags with like a fork for everyone so we could sit and eat it. But I will always remember going through security, and I had like a little, like a Stitch backpack, like it's Stitch from Lilo and Stitch. You like zip open his tummy, and that's where all the stuff. So this person searching my bag just opens it up, and there's this giant Ziploc bag of spaghetti. This dude doesn't even say anything. They see the weirdest shit. He was not fazed at all by my cold spaghetti lunch. That was just the only thing in there.
It's Don Stromboli.
Hell yeah, that's my
transporting spaghetti in a Ziploc bag.
Ziploc spaghetti. That's my Italian American culture.
Hey. hey, listen. You gotta come down over here in Richmond Hill for some my mas and Sunday gravy.
Oh yeah, tell me about
Oh my
it.
god!
Oh great.
I found. I don't know why I can't find a picture of the whole shirt, but I found a progress picture of the shirt that I sent to my friend to show her what I had done. So,
Oh no.
so you can see at least the fabric pattern and how like fucking cursed it is. There he is. It's just John Lasseter's
go.
soy face everywhere.
Oh yeah, no, that is that's soy face. There's no other way to describe that.
You can't. Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know how. Yeah.
Oh
Can't wear it.
man,
Oh,
that's
wow.
a lot. Yeah. Yeah, I could.
Solid soy face.
Just cursed.
You should
shirt.
just like mail it to him to freak him out. Imagine if you received in the mail a shirt with like your face all over it. That would really freak you
Oh
the
my
fuck out.
god! Or like a picture of me wearing it and just like pointing into the
Or, like, holding a
camera.
knife.
And, like no
Yeah.
explanation.
You know, just an idea. Just an idea.
You're next.
We're just
Yeah, we're
brainstorming,
just
yeah.
fictional
blue skying.
parody.
Blue skying
Yes,
some
yeah,
new ideas
blue
for the
sky.
parks.
That's right.
I think just to keep in the interest of bringing this to something of a conclusion,
Yeah.
you know, thinking about like as we've talked through in this episode, the history of Walt Disney, but in particular the labor relationships that have existed between, you know, first Walt as the, you know, founder, entrepreneur, maniac of this company, but then and his successors. I think it's worth thinking about as well that when we imagine Disney, the behemoth today, and we were kind of playfully joking about this in terms of like the stuff at the parks and how they've changed certain things, even the removal of the cigarette, right? Like it's a sanitization of a certain image, and it is trying to create a sense of like Disney is an all-American company. And in the modern age, you know, that gets associated with a certain kind of like socially liberal
Right.
agenda, right? Like, oh, you know, Disney, we're all inclusive, right? We're open. We're definitely not racist anymore. We
You're
swear
right.
the mouse is just a holdover. But in thinking in terms of that and then putting it in conversation with labor relations, I wanted to ask Dwight. I mean, surely Disney has a spotless record when it comes to its relationships with its employees in this particular way.
Well, I mean, listen. I mean, you know, when you're founded by a Nazi, you know,
Things can only go up.
there's always going to be challenges. I mean, look, the kind of racist history of the company, and as far as like its actual products go, is super well documented, and it's not even. We can't even encompass all of it in the course of this episode. I mean, just like I'll just say a few names if you're curious of looking it up. Song of the South,
Yeah, that's a big one.
Dumbo,
Yeah.
Aladdin,
Mhm.
Pocahontas. Just, I mean, like, again, these are staples of our upbringing that were just like scary racist.
Yeah.
And so, you know, discrimination has been, from what I can see, at least from some of the empirical things that we're looking at, and I say that you know, for litigation purposes, that just from what we're seeing has been pervasive. And I'm going to start off with something. It was a very interesting letter written to a prospective employee who had written to the you know, to Walt Disney. That was a woman, in fact, that was interested in being an animator. And this is from a letter from 1938. And I'm going to read the letter real quick. It's short. It said, "Dear Miss Ford, your letter of recent date has been received in the inking and painting department for reply. Women do not do any of the creative work in connection with preparing the cartoons for the screen, as that work
Jesus Christ.
is performed entirely by young men. For this reason, girls are not considered for the training school. The only work open to women consists of tracing the characters on clear celluloid sheets with Indian ink and filling with the tracings on the reverse side with point according to directions. In order to apply for a position as inker or painter, it is necessary that one appear at the studio bringing samples of pen and ink and watercolor work. It would not be advisable to come to Hollywood with the above specifically in view, as there are rarely very few openings in comparison with the number of girls who apply. Yours truly, Walt Disney Productions."
Oh, God.
I want to be clear there for a second. When I was laughing, it was because of the startling sexism.
Yeah.
Just like unbelievable old world sexism.
Yeah.
That women can't be in the creative department of a fucking cartoon studio.
While
that's
they're
good.
doing most of
You
the
have
work.
to.
Yes!
You have to laugh that he's basically like, you girls do paint by numbers. Go fuck off. Like, you don't get to actually draw stuff. We tell you, you trace the lines that we draw, and then you put in the colors that correspond with the number on the sheet, girls. Like,
and also pretending like that isn't
Right.
creative.
Yes,
like we were
exactly.
talking about
Like,
before,
that's a
like
skill.
pretending that is invisible
Yes. Right.
labor, right?
Like, it's
oh, that's
unskilled
just
to
that
do that.
anybody can do that.
Right.
Yeah, yes, exactly.
yes,
exactly.
you still have, like we mentioned earlier, you still have to have an understanding of animation to trace. Like Casey just so dismissively says trace. It's like you have to communicate the artist's vision. It's extremely difficult work. Even coloring too. It's like,
I mean, if you ever
know.
tried to trace a character as a kid, you know
Yeah.
that it does not come out looking like the character unless you have like a certain artistic ability there.
So, working our way up into the latter part of the 20th century, this was an interesting article from the Los Angeles Times from the year 1999 entitled Disney Station Accused of Racial Discrimination. It says here, a lawsuit filed Friday accuses Walt Disney's KLOS FM radio station in Los Angeles of violating anti-discrimination and harassment laws last year through an on-air promotion that distributed, quote, black hose,
Oh,
aka black plastic gardening tools, to listeners and advertisers.
what the fuck?
Oh,
I've
yes.
never heard this story. I'm sorry. Wait. Hold on. Wait. So was it with? Yeah. Sorry, my brain just like.
Oh yeah,
stopped.
yeah. That's right.
What the?
That's
It's
right.
so astounding. it's
Like,
startling.
Wait. It was a Disney radio. Was it like radio? It can't be like Radio Disney. Was it? It was just Disney owned, or was it like this is a Disney station?
It's a Disney station owned by Disney in Los Angeles called KLOS. Yeah. And it says here, the suit brought by a worker at the station contends the company required employees, including African Americans, to pack and ship the promotional gifts despite staff protests that the campaign was racially offensive. Duh. The promotion was broadcast to millions of people nationwide on the station's syndicated, quote, Mark and Brian show. The morning talk show hosts have a reputation for controversial promotions and built the, quote, Black Hoe campaign around a double entendre involving a slang production
Dude,
of the
look
word.
at these fucking guys. I just googled this.
Of course.
Look at Mark and Brian mornings.
Hey, this is
Doing
Mark and Brian in the morning. Welcome to Morning Radio Hour. Oh, these guys. The other one looks like a fucking like long lost brother of Gordon Ramsay.
Oh no!
I was gonna
not
say he's got a
Gordon
Ramsay
Ramsay.
look to him.
So they look like I'm like a hobbyist magician. I know like basic magic, and they look like every tutorial I get for a trick where it's like the guy teaching you.
Oh my God.
It's like that guy.
He looks yeah, no.
He looks like the kind of guy that would come up with this.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, he does.
Idiots. So this is one of my favorite kind of like concepts to explore, which I think is like just increasingly important for us to call out when we see it, is instances of white fragility. And this is one of my absolute favorites, which I was absolutely tickled when I found this in the kind of course of research here. I'm reading here from the Economic Times called Walt Disney's ABC News suspends top executive over allegations of racist comments. It says Barbara Fredita denies the allegations, which she describes as incredibly misleading.
Oh.
It reads here, Walt Disney Company's ABC News has placed on leave one of its top executives, Barbara Fredita, while it investigates press reports that she made racist comments, among other inappropriate behavior, according to the network. On Saturday, Huffington Post published an article alleging that Fredita, the network's senior vice president for talent, editorial strategy, and business affairs, has a long history of making insensitive comments and has been the subject of more than a dozen human resources complaints. Fredita denied the allegations, which she described as, quote, incredibly misleading. In one incident, the article described a 2018 discussion about anchor Robin Roberts' contract negotiations. Fredita allegedly said of Roberts, who is black, that it was not as if the company was asking her to, quote, pick cotton.
Oh.
Wow. What the fuck?
Oh boy.
And this...
No!
Now check this out. Sources told Huffington Post that as a result of Fredita's alleged misconduct, ABC News has spent millions of dollars in confidential settlements with former talent and staff, including at least one settlement related to allegations of racial discrimination. Now, here's where the white fragility kicks into gear.
Oh no.
Throughout my career, I have been a champion for increased diversity in network news, Fredita said in a statement. I am proud of my decades of work of hiring, supporting, and promoting talented journalists of color. And unlike these heartbreaking and incredibly misleading claims about me, that track record is well documented and undeniable.
Okay,
now,
lady.
if you read into what she's saying here, what she's really saying is like, well, I've hired people of color before. Shouldn't they be thankful? How come they're turning around and saying that I'm the problem? I'm not the problem. I let them be here.
How can they be so ungrateful? That's what she's saying.
I'm literally, I could break this fucking pen, and I'm so angry at this.
It's the same thing with the Walt doing, at HUAC, the idea of like, you could talk to anybody and they know that I'm a good boss.
I just want to make
they're part of my family.
I just want to make animation with my pals, and they just had to make it. Yeah, like even in that meeting he has with his employees where he's like, we don't have to do that. You can all just buckle down and do the fucking work, and we don't have to like have this be all shitty. It's like, yeah.
But this is the thing that's so fucking insidious about it, and this is how like white fragility hides behind it. Is that people want for racism to only exist in like, I said a slur,
right,
or something like that. But the offensive things, the things that are so fucking aggravating to their core, happen like in between the lines. The meaning behind the actual words and the intent, and this shit, and a person like this, Barbara Fredita, hides behind the veil of plausible deniability because she on a whim can change her intent in retrospect, but it doesn't fucking matter because she's a white person in power, and she's in charge of this shit and changes the course of people's lives based on her thoughtless power that she wields over these people.
Yeah. I would love for once, like someone in a situation like that, when instead of being like, I would not, people who know me would tell you, like, well, what if someone is just like, yeah, I'm super racist. How did you not know that? And that's the end of that story. Like, I just don't even know what we expect with these kinds of like statements. It's, I don't know.
And what's even more crazy is like, let me ask this to white people, myself included. You think you grew up in America?
Listening.
Okay. You think you grew up in America without having internalized racism? Like, even if you think that your intentions are pure, that's not enough. What's behind it and what goes into the things that you thoughtlessly say is an internalized racism, because this whole shit is racist from top to bottom. And it's it is done so by design, because they're like people like fucking Walt Disney are there to benefit from that sort of shit.
Yeah, I even just think of like going back to the parks and just the idea of like how deep this goes and how internalized it is. The parks have just now, I believe, finally, I could be wrong here, but I think they finally have said that they will not cast white people as not white characters.
Oh, really?
So there's like entire Tumblrs dedicated to like pictures of white people playing like Princess Jasmine or like Pocahontas, and they're always like, it's a weird thing where like they're honestly like really funny because like it's just such bad miscast, and there's like a really dark humor that I find in it, but it's like, fuck, it just, that goes so deep. The fact that even casting is like, well, we're casting for these tradition, like designed to be the ideal of beauty, so we're gonna have white people play them.
Right.
Yeah, right.
It's I think they finally like have gotten away with no more Italian Princess Jasmines for Disneyland.
Oh god.
Yeah, I mean, so I want to close with one last article here that was very interesting, which I actually read from this website called Cartoon Brew.
Yes, Cartoon Brew's great. I got a lot of my sourcing from them because they do a lot of good animation union reporting and stuff. Mhm.
Yeah, very very cool. So here was something. I'm going to read into it a little bit, just a few paragraphs, and it's the title of it is "Read a former Pixar employee's story that alleges systemic racism and sexism at Pixar." Now, I have kind of read through the actual source material of the blog post itself, but I think in deference for our time, we're just going to read through the synopsis here. It says the corporate culture at Pixar, the world's most prominent animation studio, is once again in the spotlight. A blogger identified as a brown Muslim woman has posted a damning account of her time at the studio on Medium. She describes a workplace rife with racism, sexism, and class insensitivity, and writes that her attempts to address these problems led to her dismissal. The writer has chosen to remain anonymous, explaining that she's worried about being targeted at her current workplace, and this makes it impossible to independently verify her account or establish exactly when she was at the studio. However, the post has drawn sympathy and/or corroboration from a number of former Pixar employees writing in the comment section, including one who has used her real name. The article recounts many instances of discrimination the woman witnessed and experienced at Pixar's Emeryville, California campus, ranging from indifference about racial injustice to highly aggressive behavior. In this, quote, overwhelmingly white environment, senior white women got away with calling Asians stingy and telling a black assistant that they were, quote, not subservient enough.
Oh.
Wow.
The writer recalls feeling uncomfortable when a male colleague casually objectified women, discussing their appearances and his sexual encounters. When she called him sexist, he warned her never to say that again. Another time, she was groped by a different male colleague during a rideshare. I wanted to report him to HR, but knew HR was not going to be supportive.
Death penalty.
She gives a harrowing account of her pregnancy and the physical and mental issues she suffered after giving birth. Far from supporting her through this difficult time, her bosses put her on a performance improvement plan, threatening her with dismissal and eventually firing her. In contrast, a white female coworker who became a mom around the same time was eased back into her work with part-time hours. The writer argues that her race and political views led her to being targeted and pressured. Racism, she adds, extends all the way to the most senior leadership at Disney. I mean, come on. Yeah. Have you seen any Disney movie? Following American soldier Robert Bale's massacre of 16 Afghan civilians in 2012, the head of Disney immediately sent an email out to all employees of Pixar saying how they support the troops and veterans. There was no mention or condemnation of this horrific act of terror that had made the world news.
Holy fucking shit, dude.
She goes on, in fact, to talk about John Lasseter here, but for the purposes of this episode, I think that paints the picture. I think, and again, just kind of tying this into the larger political economy, not just of Disney or its subsidiaries, but also of the American workplace or the American oligopoly in general, which is one that, by virtue of the fact that it is born in an American system of white supremacy, is white supremacist.
Yeah.
And creates these conditions for people of color and women and marginalized groups of all kinds to continue to incur the damage of living and working in an American workplace environment that has pervaded the entirety of American history. It's no surprise to, again, like, as much as it is fucking painful and disgusting to listen to this and to try to bring it to light and draw attention to it, it is nonetheless, frankly, unsurprising to me, because why wouldn't it be like this?
I just feel like we don't talk about it enough. Like, Disney's so big. Yeah. Why aren't we talking about this? Like, the fact that most people have not heard about the amount of employees that live in there. Like, the fact that that's not huge news or a big story is mind-blowing to me. Like, I know about that because I am a theme park fan and keep tabs on theme park news, not because it was a big controversy. Yeah.
But I really like the way, I hope you don't mind me bringing this up, but I really like the way that Mr. Movies made the point that, it can hide behind its silliness. Because wait a minute, you telling me that the cartoon company is, come on, you're going to start there. There are plenty of other worse places that you can start with.
And I mean,
yeah. you work at Disney. Oh, poor you. That's such a cool. That's a cool place to work. That's the dream job.
I mean, the thing that I kept thinking when you were reading about that like Muslim woman's experience, especially, is like this past summer they like did like a BLM commercial. It's like while they're being, you know, overtly racist and discriminating against their employees, they're saying Black Lives Matter. It's like they do all this work to maintain this image of like, you know, being like liberal and progressive and woke, but like meanwhile they're like horrible to their employees. Their employees are homeless, they're discriminated against, like I don't know.
It just shows it goes to show, like, again, back to the beginning of what at this point I think will be the part 1 episode.
Yeah.
It's gotta be. I apologize.
No, it's good.
Although, hey, that's like that's like a week. You guys don't have to.
It actually works out great. Yeah.
You already know. This is as Big Frida. So it goes back to the first thing that we were talking about, which is like when Walt Disney went from Democrat to Republican. I mean, again, you know, the political parties were certainly different at the time in like the 30s or whatever. But the point that it shows is like once your allegiances change to benefit your personal wallet, that's all that it takes for you to reject any moral, you know, what the fuck is the word I'm thinking of? Convictions.
Oh, there we go.
Your moral convictions are abandoned when you know your wallet and your your class interest comes to play.
Yeah. Remember when Bob Iger was? Maybe you addressed this because I didn't finish the Mr. Movies episode. I think I got through half of it yesterday. I'm very excited to listen to the rest of it. Bob Iger was gonna be in Biden's cabinet.
Shut the fuck up.
Ooh.
What?
Okay. Yeah. That's.
I'm so.
Did you guys talk about this
mad.
last week?
I don't know. We didn't.
He was floated for ambassador to China.
Are you shitting me?
No. But I think what happened, and I could have my time. No, actually, that doesn't line up at all. I don't think. Basically, like, so Bob Chapek was his like he was gonna run Disney after Bob Iger left, but Chapek fucking sucks shit at his job, and now Bob Iger is like basically back running Disney. Like he had to like come back, kind of.
Oh, fuck all this.
Yeah, but he was in consideration for some Biden positions. So
why?
I don't know, because he's a Disney guy. He's the Disney guy, and he's rich, and he makes the culturally good movies. Therefore,
big fan of the mouse. That mouse is racist as hell. Even back then, we knew.
Also,
still enjoyed him.
I remember when my father took me to the Nickelodeon to see Oswald the Rabbit.
Whatever happened to him?
Oh God, dude.
Oswald and Mickey got into a chain fight at the pool.
Also, my favorite news, again, I apologize if this was covered on the Bob Chapek episode, but in March of this year, like literally a month ago, Disney's Bob Chapek and Bob Iger to chair dual diversity councils.
Go fuck yourself.
The diversity councils led by two white guys named Bob. We fucking love it.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Mr. Chapek, Mr. Iger, fucking hate him. Dude, Chapek sucks. Like he's almost like a meme. I feel like among park fans because he basically is responsible for like things where the park will be like they'll do events where on top of the ticket price you pay like extra money to go to this like exclusive event in the parks where you can buy like a special themed cupcake for this. It basically is just like a way to get pass holders to spend extra money on top of their like pass that they have. And it's just all these like and like just shitty like I don't know. He's basically the most like blatant pencil like bean counter type guy at Disney. Like one of the things, and again, this is one of the things that I got that pisses me off, especially when we talk about park employees, is Chapek. There's an interview with him where he talks about Star Wars Land and how he doesn't say it, but basically Star Wars Land skirted around those like in parks entertainment unions where there's like performers and stuff by making it so that Star Wars Land, part of the appeal and the story of it is that if you talk to any cast member, even if they're custodial or they're food service, they have their own backstory and they're part of the attraction, which basically is just you're not hiring performers. You are now making your minimum wage employees be the
That's
performers.
sick.
Do they pay them for those stories?
No, that is expected
That's
of
sick.
you. Kind of like how it is expected to do like the water art if you are a cleaner, or it's all it's expected. It's the Disney magic. Don't you want to be part? It's fun. It's cooler than a normal custodial job. You get to have a bleep bloop Star Wars name and
Glove shitto.
Chelsea, this shit is
Glub
twisted.
shitto. Yeah.
glove shit. Oh yes, that's
Oh.
yeah. Anyway, welcome to
Oh, you pulled us into the dirt, man.
I did. I really I think I forget how, and again, it's so wild to me how like not common knowledge a lot of this stuff is, because it's so fucking despicable, and it should be, that when I then relay it to other people, it just reminds me of how like, oh my God, Disney's so good at keeping that shit tamped down.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's part of the image crafting too, right? That's like, especially as it becomes the ascendant monopoly of like cultural objects, right? Like, the outward politics have shifted, and I think there's an interesting point to be brought up in relation to the stuff you talked about, Dwight, where it's like these huge mega corporations that have just these billions and billions of dollars. I think Disney is like 200 billion. Is its like overall worth value?
Tell you right now.
Disney has $23 billion in cash.
The market cap is 340 billion.
But just cash on hand, they have $23 billion.
But again, it's this is this huge, powerful cultural entity, and on the surface, right, in terms of the cultural products it produces, in terms of its press releases, in terms of its forward-facing, public-facing PR, propaganda, or whatever, they are going to go with the tide, right? Whatever is in vogue, they will go with it. And so in a contemporary moment, that means making sure that on the outside they look like, oh, we're this inclusive, good company that incorporates a diverse set of voices, et cetera, all this like kind of weird corporate woke speak stuff. But that doesn't actually mean that the way that the company runs is based on that, right? And it creates this weird tangled thing where then if people get like the right gets offended because Disney kicks somebody off of whatever, the Mandalorian show or whatever, and it turns into, oh, here's this progressive company that's trying to come in and take over and change our values, whatever. It's like they don't give a fuck.
They do the work for them. They do like the image cleanup for them. It's
exactly. Like what they care about at the end of the day is what all these other companies care about, and we've talked about on the show endlessly, is like, do we make more money this quarter? That's it. Bottom line. It's not complicated. Do we make more money this quarter? All strategies are pointed towards how can we make more money next quarter.
Well, it's so fucking bleak to see them buy up like all this other intellectual property. You see, like basically every media product now is made by committee, right? You know what I'm saying? Like made by committee with like no sort of artistic merit to it anymore. It's just like, what are we going to do that we're going to be able to, get kids to pester their parents to buy merchandise for, and, how are we going to have a big blockbuster hit?
Right. We can't have anything that, like, no edges on anything.
Right. Just made by focus group at like McKinsey or something.
It's like, you know how they say like, you as a person in your life with your career and your whatever is supposed to have like a 5-year plan. Like, what are you going to do and how are you going to do this?
What are you, Brezhnev? You have a 5-year plan?
I'm Jack Welch.
I got a 5-minute plan and I'm already fucking that up. All right.
But but as a multinational conglomerate, all you have to think about is like 90 days in the future.
Yeah.
And you'll figure it out the next 90 days. Doesn't matter. Yeah. And if you fuck up, then as a CEO, then you'll earn something like $60 million, and then you'll come back as a consultant.
Yeah.
It's
worst
sick,
case, you
man.
just get a job somewhere
or
else.
An ambassador.
Fuck.
Yeah, or become ambassador to China. I think maybe the reason this episode is really I don't know. Is this how bleak it usually feels?
Oh, yeah, dude.
Or is it
Yes.
special?
Generally,
Yeah.
Yeah, this is
yeah,
just
yeah.
every time.
This is typically the stage, at least for me, where we, in order to lift the mood, we start saying things that we know will have to be cut
Right.
from the episode.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
see.
They're illegal, and there's like 10, 15 minutes, usually of me and Chris saying like, it would be so funny to
Right. Like I hope that it's true that Walt Disney was cryogenically frozen, so that when he comes back,
so we could resuscitate
That's
him
my-
on trial.
and crucify him. Yeah.
You know?
That's my and this isn't an original thought. I've seen other people say this, but that's my my theory as to why Frozen is called Frozen. Because now when you Google Disney Frozen, it's the film and not Walt Disney's Frozen.
Jesus
head.
Christ,
I
Chelsea.
immediately believe this.
Oh,
Immediately.
yeah.
This is why the Eat the Rich parties look like Pleasure Island from Pinocchio, because this is how we need to cope.
Pleasure Island. Yeah.
Smoking cigars and drinking out of beer steins.
Yeah.
Oh man, Pleasure Island looks cool as shit.
It looks great.
I would be going to the salt mines as a donkey in that movie. I'd be so screwed.
I like donkeys.
You want
That's
to
what I've
become a donkey?
based my entire life on.
You do if you're a bad kid at Pleasure Island. Pleasure Island.
Pleasure
as they
Island.
say in the movie. Yeah, James does it better than me. Is he still in here? No, he was in here a second ago. Yeah, you get. Oh wait, he is there.
Cameo to say Pleasure Island.
Pleasure, yeah. if you're a bad boy in Pinocchio, you get sent to the salt mines because you had too much fun at Pleasure Island.
I kind of want this to be the. I know we already have the episode art.
There's
We have two episode
so many
art.
episode arts.
Hang on, I'm gonna put it into the.
500 episodes.
Sorry, the last thing in here was Mark and Brian in the mornings. I was like, yeah, that's cool as hell.
God damn
That'd be
it.
like you'd have to really listen to this whole thing to figure out why.
Yeah.
That's the image.
I was gonna, when you were talking about them, interject with, as I Googled it when you were talking about it, interject with like how they had a history of discrimination and horrible stuff. But it was just a sentence with like 8 slurs in it talking about all the stuff they said on the air. So I
God.
was like, oh, I can't read that.
Yeah.
Jesus
So
Christ! These people, this company's
Oh,
the
God.
fucking Antichrist.
The happiest place on
we
earth.
love
Never
it.
no.
forget. Oh God, guys. Never forget when you could meet Stromboli at the parks. He's so scary. I don't think they bring this out anymore. He's too scary.
When I was a little kid, you could go meet Stromboli. Now, cancel culture. They take Stromboli out of there. You can't even see the Stromboli.
Oh
no more.
man, look at this guy, dude.
I'll be damned.
Was he like in Italy at Epcot?
Probably.
That's
That he's the spokesperson of Italy.
Italian
Yeah,
discrimination. for sure.
It is funny. Like you can think like Norway has Queen Elsa and China has Mulan. Italy has Stromboli.
That's fantastic.
This guy is a fucking 1-for-1 for my uncle Tony Anthony.
I missed the CD pool hall at the Italy Pavilion
Oh
at
my
Epcot,
God.
but I would play in that, and you get to smoke a cigar and
Oh, they could
turn
have
green
a salt
or
mine
whatever.
ride.
Oh,
I'll just work in it.
Anthony,
No problem.
Anthony ran a catering company off of Victory Boulevard. They specialized in stuffed shells.
just ended on that.
They were stuffed with the salt of naughty boys.
Do you want to see another? And I this will be the last one because it's the best. Another extremely cursed park
Please.
character.
Please, by all means.
You would think that having Jessica Rabbit appear in the park would be very
Oh,
exciting,
no.
right? That's a you're not even ready for.
I don't
This,
think I want to know.
All right, let's go meet Jessica
Hit us with
Rabbit.
it.
Hell yeah. Absolutely so pumped to meet this fucking hottie.
What the fuck is that?
That's like those.
End of
Holy
episode.
shit.
That is
Episode.
some serious uncanny valley shit.
Have you
going
ever
on
seen
here.
like those like latex fetish suits?
This is what Donald Trump thinks pretty women look like.
That's what this is. This is literally just like a sex thing. Oh, this is fucked.
But you know that like someone was still like I'm gonna try to sexually harass this character
Oh,
anyway.
man.
It's like, goddamn.
That's the Disney way.
Ever since I was a little kid,
Oh, it's so.
I've been waiting to sexually harass a person in a costume of Jessica Rabbit.
Hey, this looks like my great aunt Teresa. She was divorced
so
4 times.
Oh, but God, that lasagna she made. Oh, yeah.
She's so beautiful. I just sent a second
Jesus.
picture, and it took like a long time to send. I feel like I accidentally sent like a 4,000 by 2,800 JPEG.
Can somebody please put the face app on the? Somebody
is-
put the face app
Oh,
on.
I'm
this
on
broad.
it. I'm on it right now.
Chris is like,
Yeah, this
say
is
no
really-
more.
Oh,
That's
God. But again, like it's shit like this weirdo character is why I come back to Disney ephemera and like there's so much weird shit that I love, and
Just when I thought I was out,
they
they
pulled
pulled
me
me
right.
back in.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Wow, Chelsea, you have spent a worrying amount of time with us.
I had such a great time. I hope that this didn't, I mean, obviously this went too long, but like,
No.
No, it was very fun.
no,
Two-parter,
Yeah,
a good
yeah.
two-parter. Why not?
I mean,
Chris, somebody please post this on Twitter.
Oh, I mean, I gotta do it like about a dozen more times
Yeah.
though.
Yeah.
It's, like,
There's
really
like
fucked
15
up. Yeah.
iterations we need to go through here.
This is where it really gets dialed in at like 2 in the morning.
That's the
Yeah.
episode
When you
art
start
for part
just-
2 for sure. With the smile.
All right, let me
The
work on it.
happiest place on
I
earth.
hate how it looks like it just could be the real thing. Like that's so upsetting.
No, it's
Oh,
definitely
I'm
not
not
good.
even gonna.
You know, you got to do that horrible. What's that horrible app where it's like a face tune, like singing?
the one
Wombo.
that, I was gonna say whatever
Vocoder?
one.
Yeah.
Vocoder?
Throw that
Make
into.
her.
What is what's his face's wife used the? I'm so tired. I can't think of
Oh,
her
I know what
name.
you're talking
Blonde
about.
lady. She just is like the smoothest woman when
God,
she
who
posts
is it?
a
I'm
picture.
so
Oh,
drunk. Yes.
Callista, Gingrich.
Yes,
Yeah.
Gingrich.
Oh.
The smoothest
Oh,
woman.
yeah.
Yeah, no,
dude.
I put her through the face app every time she posts a
You're
picture.
talking about
I love
Louise
it.
Linton.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is one of my
God.
favorite ongoing projects on Twitter.
I love it.
Chelsea, for those who are foolishly unfamiliar with your podcast and YouTube channel, where can they find you?
You can find me on Dead Meat on YouTube and the Dead Meat podcast. We talk politics sometimes. It's not quite like this, but we do a lot of discussion of history and politics through the lens of horror. Horror is very political and it's constantly a controversial genre. So I think if you like this show, you'll like our show.
Hey, speaking of horror, check out the
Okay.
check out the new iteration. Yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
Chris,
Chris.
that's fucking
Oh,
twisted,
no.
bro.
So sick, dude.
Yeah,
That's
now we're
like-
getting into it. You got to do is you got to throw a frown.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I like
filter on there every now-
alternating between the
Yeah,
classic
yes,
smile and the wide
yeah.
smile.
And then that creates that
You people
eventually
are
turns
sick.
into Joker.
Yeah,
You
just
people
full
are sick.
Jokerification.
Leave Jessica alone.
Oh my god, dude.
God, it looks like it's like when you have like injections go wrong and your skin
Yeah.
dies. Like that's what this
Get like
looks
necrotic
like.
flesh.
Yeah. Like when it accidentally goes into like your sinus cavity.
Well,
or
what's
something.
what's even like? It's not even beyond
all
the
right,
face.
all right,
It's
let's-
like-
let's wrap
it's
it up.
the-
Let's-
it's the-
let's wrap it up.
It's
Come
the
on.
outfit that's like skin tone, but like you can see the wrinkles in it.
I'll tell you.
and
Yeah.
stuff.
Leave
It looks
something
like-
to the imagination.
Death-
Okay, this
Death
is
becomes
I'll
less
tell
is
you
more. This is a classic film.
I'll tell you what this reminds me of when we're
Come
done
on.
recording.
Yeah. This is
Chelsea,
we're-
Chelsea,
Chelsea,
thank you for
you.
joining
It was
us.
a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for having me.
Thank you so
Such
much.
a delight.
Stay cool. Stay cool.
Love
Stay
you.
cool.
Good night, folks.
No.
Bye.
Bye.